right. And we're live. Today we're going to be talking about Bomberman. Bomberman was developed and published by Hudson Soft. It was released for the Famicom in Japan on December 20th, 1985. And it's an action game, somewhat of a puzzle or maze game as well. The game was created by Shinichi Nakamoto. And supposedly the Famicom port for this game was completed in a 72-hour programming session. Bomberman involves navigating grid-like stages that are a hybrid of a maze and a labyrinth. Each stage features bombable walls, non-bombable pillars, one power-up, one exit, and a variety of enemies. There are a total of 50 stages in the game, and were you to get a game over, there is a password system to pick back up where you left off, but just don't even bother with that. Don't bother. It's really bad. So what's your motivation for doing 50 whole levels of Bomberman? Well, Bomberman is a robot who is assigned the job of manufacturing bombs. He's forced to work in a labyrinth deep underground and is a minion of evil. However, Bomberman hears rumors, I assume in the plant, the underground plant, where the evil people are, that if you escape to the surface, you can become human, which is somehow preferable to being a robot. He resolves to escape and begins his ascent to the surface. His bombs are his only weapon. And at the end, he technically becomes the master runner of Load Runner or Load Runner. I haven't played a Load Runner, so I don't know. But as you're making your way through the stages, you're going to encounter a variety of enemies in this game. There are Ballums, or Balloon Boys, O'Neills, or Icy Boys, Dolls, which I like to call Barrel Boys, Menvos, which are creepy smiley boys, Doria, which are an amiibo-like creature that basically just looks like Ditto, overpowered, which are ghost boys, passes, which are the hardest enemy in the game. It's like a smiley boy, but with two ears on it, and it looks kind of like a bear. And then finally, we have this is the most difficult enemy in the game. There are just few of them. It is the Pontans, or the Coin Boys. Coin Boys. Oops. Why am I so bad? Heads. The Ballums are pretty slow and they just kind of move around in their little balloon ways. The Icy Boys are a lot faster, but and they're probably more of a threat than the Barrel Boys, and to be quite honest. The Barrel Boys are almost indistinguishable from the Icy Boys. They just move along. Usually their trajectory is a little easier to gauge, though, when you're trying to plan a bomb for them. The Smiley Boys are kind of erratic and pretty fast, and so they are a little scary sometimes, but they end up just like wiggling in like one little tiny place usually. The Ditto Boys are not that intimidating, but they can move through the bombable walls, so you have to be a little careful about those guys. The Ghost Boys are basically just a better version of the Blue Boys, the Ditto Boys. The Teddy Bears are kind of ferocious, and they can also they'll get out of the way of your bomb sometimes. And the Pontans will come if you run out of time in a stage, or in the later levels they are just featured as a normal enemy, but usually there's only like two. These guys are basically like Grim Reaper death guys. They will absolutely decimate you if you're not prepared. And speaking of being prepared, this is really a game about getting powered up. Like, you're getting stronger and stronger as you progress through these stages. Like I said, there's one power up and one exit per stage. And you want to get the power up before you exit. So the fire power up just makes your blast radius bigger. For a little bit at first, I did not use the fire power up as frequently. I actually skipped over it because I noticed I was killing myself more than the enemies were killing me. I wanted to make sure I wasn't the author of my own demise. pickups. When you see the bomb icon, that is an extra pickup for your bomb. You start with 1 bomb and you can get up to 10 bombs. These are really useful. You can chain them together or you can just use them to kind of like clear space at the end. I found that it's helpful to try and take out the enemies before you blow up all of the bombable walls, because sometimes if they can go any direction in the grid, it can be a little bit difficult to snag them. And sometimes that's going to be what causes you to run out of time. The skate looking icon is movement speed up. There's a max of 1 per game, but there are a few of them, I believe, that you can get. It's what allows you to move faster, and it's pretty much required for the later levels to be able to pass them, because otherwise you're just going to be too slow to like get out of the way of your own bombs you're going to be using to blow up your enemies. The remote control is the best item in the game. It's what lets you time your bombs. If you can time your bombs, then you can place them down and you can just wait and you can sit for them to come into the path. It's honestly kind of game breaking. The game requires a lot more thought and skill in the beginning, because when you get the remote timer bombs, they open up a world of possibility. However, you'll notice they are located on a few stages, because if you die, you'll hold on to your blast radius for the most part, and I believe most of your bombs, but every time I died, I lost access to my remote control timer bombs. And because of that, I ended up just restarting a few times because it's just too frustrating. I didn't know when the next one was coming up, and I wasn't about to find out because I figured it would just be easier to start over and try and get those again. There's a bomb pass, which lets you pass through bombs you've placed. If you place a bomb, enemies can't pass over your bomb, and neither can you. So a lot of times you'll get trapped behind your own bomb. But if you get bomb pass, it means you can drop a bomb to protect yourself, continue running over it. It's just a very nice convenience, but it's not required. It helps prevent you from getting trapped by your own bombs. Block pass, on the other hand, is a lot more powerful. Suddenly, all of these blocks, all of these bombable walls, you can just walk right through them. And so like once you get that, you really are your own worst enemy, because once you can move through the walls, I mean, it's really just going to be your own bombs at that point. It's a patience game to an extent. You have to be patient with yourself. The question mark blocks are invincibility, and that's, I believe, 35 seconds of a star in Mario, essentially. You can go around, you can't hurt yourself, other enemies can't hit you, you can just bomb like crazy. And then lastly, I said remote timer is the best, and it's the best because you can beat it with remote timer. I'd say the second best, or tied for best, power up in the game is flameproof, which means your own blasts no longer affect you, and so you can just go ham, blowing these guys up. And you don't have to worry about yourself. There are bonus stages in this game where you can experience flameproof without actually getting flameproof. But flameproof in the regular stages, it's just like the game is basically over. And you get that around stage 30. And so the final 20 stages are just beating it for beating its sake. You've pretty much seen just about everything the game has to offer by that point. The backgrounds never change. The color scheme never changes. Just the enemies and random placements of blocks. So how does it feel to play? Bomberman feels good. It feels good to play. It controls well, it's easy to understand. You're probably gonna blow yourself up at first, but once you understand what's going on, and it doesn't take long, you can easily beat this game the same day that you first play it. I wanna say it took me around an hour and 45 minutes to get through. On my winning run, I played it a little bit more than just that because there were multiple failures beforehand, but I gotta say, it feels like a complete solid experience, and it feels like a lot of fun for 1985. In my experience playing, I found that the earlier stages were the hardest because those were the stages where you didn't have access to your power-ups. So even though the enemies were moving really slow, I'd find that I'd run out of time. But it's not all bad, because if you do happen to run out of time during the first stage, it allows you to pick up that first blast radius power-up again. And as I said earlier, for a while in my earlier playthroughs, I was not picking up that blast radius increase because I kept killing myself by mistake, but you should pick it up because once you get flameproof, the blast radius just helps cut down time, and it helps because if you blow up a power-up or you blow up the door, the escape door that's on each stage, you'll actually unleash enemies. And so like they will spawn out of the door or spawn out of that, And if you can get more distance so that like if you accidentally do hit it, those enemies won't kill you. Because even with flameproof, if they come in and touch you, that's how you die. So the box and the cartridge, it kind of feels reversed. Usually the Japanese box arts are pretty reflective of what you're going to see in the game and the style of the game. But with Bomberman, it actually feels almost more like an American box art where like, you don't look like this in the game. Like, let me just bring it up to you. You don't look like this in the game. This guy is kind of like an exaggerated, beefed up version of Bomberman. And the cartridge is really no different. I will say though that it does look good and I do like the cartoony style to them, but overall it's not my favorite. I like when the box art more accurately reflects what I'm gonna see in the game. So final thoughts, is Bomberman a must-play game? I think a Bomberman is a must-play game. I don't think it necessarily needs to be this Bomberman. If you've played other games of the Bomberman franchise, though, I don't think that you're gonna have a bad time. In fact, I don't think anyone could have a bad time with this game. It's a good game. I think that even on the Famicom, I have cheated and I did look at Bomberman 2. That game looks just a little bit stronger because it just looks so much better and has multiplayer. This game is single player only. I just think that it's impressive how it still holds up though. It feels like, you know, you could port this and just like do a slight overhaul of the look and it plays great. It's a great game. You can get really overpowered, which is something that is kind of a first for these early games. This is the first game I've played where I feel like I can reach like a godlike state of power. So final thoughts, I really enjoyed playing Bomberman, and it has me looking forward to play future entries. My first Bomberman game was actually Bomberman Hero for the N64, which is a complete standout from the rest of the franchise. So I'm really interested in the roots, and I'm really interested in playing the next entries in this series because of this game. Thanks for watching.